Hello, and welcome to Good News Rhode Island, the show about Rhode Island and the people and places and events that make Rhode Island a great place to live, because each one of those people, places, or events build a community. The community we're talking about today is the riverfront in Providence, and we are so happy to have a group of people who've been working for a long time on a project with this mile along the river. And it's the I-95 project, which is here now to stay, and they're trying to find ways to use this land, and we think they've thought of something really wonderful. Right here is Jan Brody. She is here as the director of that project, and we welcome her. And then these are artists who are here to talk with us about each of their individual pieces.
My name's Jan Brody. I'm the executive director of the I-195 Redevelopment Commission. And just to give you a little context of why we have this wonderful place and space for creative talent of Rhode Island and of Providence to be showcased. The 195 highway got moved a number of years ago, and in its place we have open space. We have 19 acres, 15 parcels of redevelopment land, and we have some time before those developments are actually going to happen. Over the past year and a half, 2 years, DOT has been working to put the streets back, to put the sidewalks in, the trees up, and to make the parcels ready for development. And they are starting to be completed on the west side. We're now on the east side. The parcels over here that are bordering the river will be completed next summer. Meanwhile, as we're waiting for DOT to finish their work, and as we wait for development to actually happen, we have land available that we want to get people out walking, biking. We want to show that 195 is an integral part of the city, and we want to promote 195 and the land that we have to offer. So we have these 15 parcels, 19 acres, and this program was meant to say to everybody that we are proud of the city, proud of where we are, proud of its creative talent, and to showcase both the people and the space that it's sitting in.
Well, to tell you the truth, I think of it as a part of Rhode Island as well, and I certainly agree with everything that you said, but I think of it as part of Rhode Island because the Narragansett Bay is the heart of Rhode Island, and the head of the bay is just around the corner here. And so I feel like the rivers and everything feed into Narragansett Bay and vice versa, depending on the tide.
Absolutely true. And I don't know if the cameras can show it, but right behind is the old pilings from the old highway infrastructure. The highway's gone. The bridge over the Providence River is gone. But what we're putting back instead is a pedestrian and bike bridge, and it will link the east side to the west side, and allow this side of the river to really connect with the other side. The river walk is going to continue up and down. We're hopefully someday bringing water fire down to this point so that all eyes really are on, as you say, the river that runs right through the middle of the city.
And right up the hill is historic Benefit Street, which is another miracle mile. So it seems to me the whole city will be a destination.
Absolutely. And we're calling it the Creative Mile because literally from one end of our parcels that we have available over on the east side, over at the waterfront, up to 95, where your piece is, it's literally a walking mile.
Do any of you have any ideas about public art? I'd like to start there because public art is such an important, maybe seems to the development committee or whomever as something that's not utilizing the land properly. But to me, public art only enhances the skyline and only enhances what is here already.
From an artist's point of view, it's very different than making art for a gallery space or trying to get your art in like a shop or something like that. There's a lot of challenges that come along with public art. Weather exposure, it has to be able to endure the seasons. Human interaction is much different than, say, in a gallery space where it's very kind of like calm and sterile. So you have to take that into consideration. Are people going to climb on this? Are they going to hurt themselves on it? It's going to get snowed on. So that to me, presented a whole new kind of set of challenges, and I think it's a lot of fun, and it's much more exciting to me than making art for like a gallery type space. Yeah.
For me, my head on public art is that art supports the community, and you can judge the community basically by the arts. People see the works that are out in public, and they can get a hit of what the sensitivity of the area is. Businesses come to see the art. People come and visit it. And you can take a look at Waterfire and see how that's transformed the city, and it's art transforming the community. Transforming means also bringing business and money into the area. It's alive and well, whereas it's static otherwise.
We like to think of public art as art for the people. I think especially in contemporary society, people are squeezed financially, they're squeezed as far as free time. And art that is out in the streets that you could see from a bus window, that you can just walk by. In a park, you can see it painted on the side of the building. It's for people who maybe can't afford admission to a museum, or maybe people who don't have time to go visit galleries. They can stand out, on their way to work. They can observe a piece of art, and it gives them something to think about. Public art connects a place, gives a place sort of a personality. So people call it placemaking. You will recognize an area by a piece of public art, and a really special public art can connect right to the neighborhood it's in. It can talk about the history, can talk about sort of the culture that's around it, and so it's really, really invigorating to society of all sort of socioeconomic levels, and I think that's a really, really important thing to remember.
They're all very good points. And the other idea, building off that, of the concept of work, of the meaning behind it, takes on a different meaning in the place that it's in, that it can drive your concept for the place that it will be put in and displayed. The interaction, the difference of being in a gallery or a museum as opposed to an open space, and how it interacts with the environment, as well as then having other pieces with each other together. I think this is an excellent display area, as well as over here. Unfortunately, once the construction won't be as invasive as it is, there's some wonderful pieces over there as well that would be much, much different if they were in a museum or an enclosed space. Being in an open space really changes what the concept could mean and bring to people.
If you can tell me something about the school and the work that this represents, we'd love to know a little bit more about them.
Great. So the concept was my idea of connecting our school community, which is School 1, which is a very creative school in general, but also has many artistic, creative students. We came up with the idea of thinking future tense for Providence. So many different things are very focused on the history, which is wonderful and very vast, but also thinking about the future with the perspective of high school students and what they're thinking about their city for the future. So we had numerous students who did very quick sort of sketch drawings, nothing that they were, to put too much time into, like your brainstorming idea about the future as a teenager here living in Providence. And we then took the pieces and had them work on them digitally within their Photoshop class. So they had two different aspects of working on them, drawing techniques and sketching, and then to utilize digital art. And the idea, the concept then of thinking of them as sort of like solar panels, so the regeneration of light, of taking that concept of hopeful future thinking about the environment, and many of them were thinking about the environment when they were looking at their ideas and coming up with their drawing concepts, each of the individual pieces that they did. Some of them thought in terms of more political ideas, gender ideas, different things that were important to them for the future, each individually, and then putting them together and putting them onto printing onto aluminum, which that was the other thing, is all the materials have been recycled from one of our faculty members at School 1. She, Monica Shin, works at the Steel Yard, very involved artist in the area. She was very kind to donate the materials to be able to fabricate all of the sculptural aspects.
Thank you very much, Kristen Jones, for coming. So thank you, and please thank your students.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If you click on www.195district.com, we have a separate page devoted to this interim use program, and you can find out more about each of the installations on the website.
Now we're just going to look for 1 second at this sculpture, and Kate, maybe you could tell us a little bit about its conception.
Sure. The piece is called Panfly, and it was created by ArtinPublicPlaces4. And the idea behind it is basically if you go through inside, basically Artie has collected all these stories, histories, personal and sort of bigger collective about Providence. It's people, it's happenings, big events, small events, everything, trying to create a sort of memory of Providence within this structure.
Very, very interesting. And there's a way that you can access it with your iPhone. Access a lot of...
Exactly. The QR codes are scannable with an iPhone or any kind of smartphone.
We're talking with Mark Woolley now with this wonderful sculpture here that lets us pretend that we're seeing into the cosmos if we look at it the right way. So Mark, congratulations on this. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the conception of it and also the name and what the name means.
The piece is called Hephaestus Rising. That's based from the idea of the Greek god that was tossed out quite unceremoniously by his father Zeus. The idea of falling from Mount Olympus to Earth took several days, and the idea of falling for several days was the impetus for the design concept for this piece. Falling for me goes down really fast. When I fall, I'm down. But to fall in the different shapes that it would take for a person to fall, then that's been translated into cubes, and I made open cubes in rebar, steel, and then built those cubes up so that it grew in this strange fashion that winds up there. Then covered it with cardboard, see if it worked, take it apart, fix it, cover it with sheet metal, and then perforate it with a whole bunch of holes so that when you are looking at the piece in daylight, the holes line up and they sparkle. So you get a surface that's much more active by you activating the surface. So it's public art. So you don't want static public art. You don't want a thing that just kind of stays there. You want something that kind of engages you. The idea for this piece is that I wanted it to be a surprise. That a person sees it from a distance and they come up upon it and then they see more. And then they see the sparkles and they see more. And then they see a different view of it, and yet again the rest of the environment starts to shake up differently as well. So it's painted purple because it's the god's color. Homage to the god of metallurgy and artisans is what we all do, and it was a kind of an appropriate statement for this area and for what artists do in general.
Thank you, Mark. It feels like it moves as you look at it, and as you walk around it, it feels very kinetic to me as I walk around it. So I appreciate all the thought that went into it. It's really interesting.
It was a lot of fun to do it. Particularly exciting when the painting got done, and I could see it out in an environment where it's free. It can move. And also then the environment works on the work, like it does with outdoor sculpture. The environment is part of the design of the piece. So, Echo,
thank you.
Hephaestus.
Here we are on a different part of the Mile Walk, the Miracle Mile Walk, and we're here with Anna Snyder, who's a student from RISD, or a graduate of RISD, excuse me, and is concerned about the earth and invasive species and native species. And so maybe you could tell us a little bit about your work here.
I can. So I'm Anna Snyder, and this is my partner, Timothy Furland, and together we work under the business name Art for Place. And for the 195 sculpture project, we really wanted to work in a sculpture in a series we'd like to do called Native and Invasive. And this particular sculpture focuses on sassafras, which is a tree that has been in this area for millions of years. I was here when we had some late dinosaurs. Native Americans of this area used sassafras root to cure all kinds of illnesses. And before the colonists realized that sassafras was actually everywhere down here, it was a pretty pricey item for trade. And that sort of fell through when they realized it grew in great abundance. So we wanted to concentrate on a plant that is native. We'd like to continue this series by doing something invasive next. And in Rhode Island, we have a couple beetles, the emerald ash borer and the Asian longhorn beetle, which are both invasive, which would be a really neat sculpture. But for this piece, we wanted to make sure that we had this informational plaque out in both English and Spanish. And we wanted to sort of have it attractive for children and young people so that they could learn. We're trying to add educational element into every piece of sculpture we do. So the sculpture behind is sort of hand-formed out of metal. The sign in front of it, the sassafras title sign as well. And then we put this together with an actual branch of sassafras. And if you approach it and scratch at its skin, you can smell root beer, which is really fascinating.
Very, very interesting. I would say multimodal learning. Now, you said you formed those by hand out of metal. How does one do such a thing?
So Timothy is our fabricator, and he will tell you about it.
So the piece itself is a forged and fabricated piece, whereas you heat the metal up to a temperature to where it's glowing pretty much bright orange to almost yellow. And then you just whack it with a hammer and make it do what you want it to do.
And you imagine these leaf shapes, and some of them are wilted and some of them are upright just to make it beautiful. Is that what your
we just
goal
wanted
is?
to have a little more of a dynamic piece and have it stand up a little bit more off the ground. So.
Thank you both very much,
Thank you.
Tim and Anna, and I wish you all the best, and I hope this is filled with native species at some point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Kate, it looks to me as though there are some other sculptures here besides the ones that you have just commissioned.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if you could tell me something about this whole space that we can see here on Bessie Way.
Yeah, sure. So we have one piece that is part of ours besides sassafras, and that's the birdhouses that are right next to the church. That's an installation from earlier this year. It went up in May. But the other three that are kind of, right by 195 have just kind of appeared over the last few years. And we think this is a really great thing, to just have the spontaneous public art appearing, especially because we're trying to generate enthusiasm for the 195 land and what's to come. To be able to have this pop-up art here, engages people, gets people interested in what's going on, and really reinvigorates public space, which is something that Providence really benefits from.
We're here now with Kurt Snell. We have this wonderful sculpture that sort of elicits all kinds of things. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, it's broken up into sections, and it's had an interesting life. It started in about the late spring, and the center section was part of the Foo Fest here in Providence, which is a one-day festival with art and music and performance and food and all kinds of stuff. So the center section, I sort of had to move these pieces around because my studio is not big enough to house this whole thing. The skyline is really beautiful over here. The sun hits directly on it. I wanted to do something that would be able to interact with the landscape, interact with shadows, something that would change as you move around it. So when you first come around the turn down there, it looks a lot more almost like a pyramid from far away, and then as you drive by it, it starts to kind of open up and elongate, and you see that it's kind of a long structure, not just kind of a smaller structure. So I wanted to do something that kind of interacted with your perspective as you move on it, something that interacted with the sun, something that had color that kind of, changed as it with the piece a little bit, and I'm interested to see how it's going to age. I anticipate it fading a little bit, and just seeing it, how it ages with the seasons, how it looks with snow on it.
It will look very different with snow, probably. The other thing, you think of whales, you think of structures that used to be part of Rhode Island, the very earliest colonies, which were made of wood, or which were made of skins with branches, but it also looks as though it's part of a ship.
I've gotten a lot of different interpretations of what people see, and that's a big one. A nautical theme is something that people see a lot, whether it's a whale or a boat.
It just needs to speak to each person individually, and it will probably draw something different out of everyone. But what a wonderful place, and thank you so much, Kurt, for being here.
Oh, well, thank you.
Kate, I sort of captured you as you were ready to leave and said, gee, I see some other things around here. What else is going on? And you told me that another time you had put some other sculptures up. So maybe you could tell us the artist's name and where they are. And
yeah, sure. There are 5 sculptures in total that we put up in May before the ones that we talked about individually today. And what was interesting about these 5 and the artists is that they were all young artists that had gone to college here and then stayed in Providence.
Hooray for them!
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we thought was really great and that we wanted to highlight when we were putting these on display. That there is something really great about the creative young talent pool that's here in Providence, and they really should be featured and celebrated in the city. And so we hope we're doing that by having these installations as well as the ones that we've talked about today.
And we're on East Franklin Street, and down here there is one that looks like a staymobile or whatever.
Yes, so that one, is supposed to be kind of geometrical and gem-like, to celebrate the jewelry district, kind of where it's located. And then we have another installation here that is sort of supposed to be, kind of artificial branches coming out, but then at the top you see sort of real plant life. And then, yes, exactly, and kind of in sort of that nature theme, we have on the end, another mix of artificial and natural, which are these sort of gazing reflective balls that are coming out of the ground, as well as sort of sunflowers right over there in a garden also next to it, created by the Downtown Improvement District in Providence.
Okay, and thank you, Kate, again for your help. We're here with Ed Rondeau, who's here with his sculpture, which is on this very large piece of land, which is sponsored by the Commission.
I-195. Between Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design and Johnson & Wales University, there's an energy level that sort of permeates the area and will hopefully bring technology businesses to buy these parcels of land.
Tell us about this sculpture. You said it was kinetic. It's very cheery.
It's very cheery. I call it agricola because this came off a piece of farm equipment. I have no idea what it did, but it did come off a piece of farm equipment.
Agricola for the Latin word for farmer.
Farming. And I work with scrap metal. I go to the scrap yard, I pick up metal on the side of the street. Friends call me and say, hey, I've got a piece of metal. And I put them all over my yard, and I look at them, and eventually one of them says to me, why don't you combine me with that one and turn me into this? And so my work is sort of an eclectic recycling program of scrap metal, and I turn it into art. And I learned how to do all of this after retiring, one of my retirements, at a place called the Steel Yard, which is an arts community,
yes,
where I learned the basic skills of welding, but composition came from my dad and from some art teachers that I had in college. My works all have a lot of circles. I love the concept of the circle. I love the sense of color. My works, many of them are raw metal as well. Some of the ones I do in stainless and in raw metal. So I'm pretty eclectic in what I do, but I try to work fairly large. and some of my pieces are 10 and 12 feet tall. This is a nice, convenient one. I can move it easily. And then I work in small pieces. I do a lot of nautical work in the shapes of stylized boats. Whatever I find, I eventually find a way to connect them in a way that, to me, has a rhythm and it has a sense of humor. In this particular piece, I wanted people to smile.
What do you have to say about public art? Because I think it's so important that this is a public art piece. It's not over there in the Brown University molecular labs.
Providence has a history of public art. If you spent a day in Providence, you could probably find 50 or 60, not even including the 25 pieces in Roger Williams Park itself, which has wonderful, wonderful artwork. But we used to have a convergence in Providence many years ago, in which every spring artists from all over the country would converge on the city of Providence for a month and set up temporary displays all over the city. And they weren't judged; they were just simply there for the people to enjoy. Some of them sold, most of them didn't, and it would just bring. The thing is, it would bring thousands of people into the city of Providence. And if you walk around the city, there are pocket parks all over the place which contain works of art.
I want to thank you, Ed Rondo, very much for being here. Thank you for the art, and it is just so much fun to see, and I wish you well with all your future projects and all your future work, whatever that may be.
Well, you know, my father-in-law once said retirement is when they put you in the pine box, and he had 4 different careers. I'm only on my 3rd, so I've got 1 more to go.
Jan, you're helping to coordinate with the I-95 project your vision of Providence and the greater vision of a lot of leaders, I'm sure, of Providence. But I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what you're thinking of, the different parcels, and what the committee is looking at and how the public might influence that decision.
The 195 Redevelopment Commission is made up of 7 commissioners, including its chair, Colin Kane, and 6 commissioners either appointed by the governor or recommended by the mayor, Speaker of the House. And it is the vision of the commission to bring jobs, bring economic prosperity, bring vitality back to this land, this area, downtown Providence, and the state of Rhode Island. What we envision for the individual parcels is really not up to us for a vision. The vision is about reconnecting the city that once was built before the highway came in and took some of these streets and made dead ends out of them. A city is made up of housing, it's made up of offices, it's made up of research facilities, retail, restaurants. That's really the vision. We are linking both east side and west side, the streets that once were cut apart, and linking different kinds of uses. So it's a mixed use, mixed income, mixed populations. It will serve a multiple of people and ways to define what enhanced economics are all about. One piece of it is to celebrate the artistic creation and the entrepreneurial spirit. And that's why this interim use program is a way to both promote the talent of the state as well as to promote 195 and this incredible opportunity that the state and city has. This brochure was created and it takes you from the points on the furthest side, on the east side, all the way to the west side, and it weaves its way through the city. So en route, you see other restaurants, you see other businesses, a multiple of architectural types. The city is very rich in architecture, and we want pride in the city. It is a wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful state to be in.
We've gotten a lot of news recently, particularly from travel magazines, Travel and Leisure, about Providence. So we want to keep up that image by having places for people to go.
Quality of life is very strong here.
Thank you so much for watching Good News Rhode Island. We hope that there's good news around the corner, like this kind of thing, that you have public art as well, and you have people who are willing to risk time and money to make something beautiful for your space. Thank you for watching.